Welcome to Patrick's Book Reviews. All right, welcome back everyone. Very excited to have you with me today, and I'm very excited to do this video because I've been waiting a long time. I've been wanting to get this up, but I've ordered a lot of books for Historathon 2026, and I was waiting for them to get here. The American books came very quick, but I ordered a few of them from England, and they took a long time to get here. But the majority of them are here, enough so that I can do this video. I'm just waiting for one more book, but it's part of a 3-volume set. So I have 2 of the volumes. So I'm just going to go ahead and shoot this video, obviously. Before, I should stop hitting the table. Before I get into this, I do have to try to kind of justify this a bit. There's some problems with this. Before I knew about Historathon, I just ordered some books about Byzantium, and so I'd started reading this first book of a 3-book series, and this does start off in quarter 1. So quarter 1 for Historathon is from prehistory up to 500 AD. So this starts around 300 AD with Constantine the Great, and so I technically started Historathon off on the right foot, I guess, but quickly this gets out of the correct time period and gets up to the year about 800. And so I just finished this book yesterday, and so I'm already out of the time period I'm supposed to be in, but I don't want to break up this series either, so I'm just going to continue with this series, and then I'm going to try to atone for it a little bit if I can get these 3 books read quickly. So basically, though, for this year, what I'm kind of the theme I'm going with are multi-volume histories for each quarter. And the other thing you'll notice, all of them were written by historians or authors from the 20th century. That was not necessarily intentional, but somewhat intentional. I just kind of wanted history, written not super modern, but still modern. And I'm not super concerned with having the most up-to-the-date history, like if a few minor things changed or some new letters came out or anything like that. I don't care too much about that. I more just want authors whose writing style I enjoy. And so I find that I kind of like writers from that period a lot more, I think, than some of the modern history that I've read. And so, without further ado, the first book is Byzantium, as I already mentioned. This is by John Julius Norwich, and this was amazing. I loved this so much, and so there's no way I would want to break this up anyway. I just want to continue reading with him. And this has got me thinking a lot, too, about just finding a writer I like and just like reading all his histories, even if it's about things I don't necessarily care about. I was very interested in the Byzantine Empire, though. So, but I really like John Julius Norwich's writing, his style, and everything. This was written in 1988, so it's fairly modern. It's really, really good, and I'll review this at the end of this month anyway, so I won't talk about it too much. And the second volume in this is the Apogee, and so one nice thing about these two is like in the front they have a family tree. They have maps and a family tree, and they have a lot of illustrations throughout too. They have like all the plates and whatnot. But in the back of the book, which is really helpful, is they have a list of emperors. So as you're reading it, like this goes on. I mean, look how many emperors there are. But this one starts with Irene and Charlemagne, because the empire just at the end of the other one is split back between the east and the west. So it lists the emperors on both sides, which is good because they just switch emperors so often. Unless it's someone who's been in power for a long time, it's hard to remember what's going on. So I constantly would just keep my bookmark marked there to help me out with that. So I'll start this today. And then the final volume of that series is The Decline and Fall. And so obviously that's just the fall of Byzantium. And so I'm hoping to get into this month too. And what I'm really hoping for is, like I said, to have a little extra time so I can amend for being outside of the time period. And my main possibility, not a promise. So those three are a promise, but my possibility would be the complete writings of Thucydides. Greek history on the Peloponnesian Wars. And yeah, I really want to try to get to this. I'm a little bit afraid of finishing it in the time period because this is over 500 pages, and it's just kind of a lot of text on each page, and obviously it's quite an old book, but it does have this cool fold-out map on the first page. I think this came out from, or this edition is from the Modern Library, and I think this one's from 1934. I didn't buy this book; I acquired it from someone. But it looks pretty sturdy, actually. I was a little worried that I'd be ruining it, but it's actually looks like it's holding up fairly well. So yeah, I really want to get to that. It's not a promise, but it's a strong, of all my possibilities, this is the strongest possibility that I'll get to. It looks super interesting too. I was just looking at the book 1, chapter 1, and first off, like you can see his history. He's going back to the origins of what he believes to be, the origins of Greek history, and he's talking immediately about you see Agamemnon, and he's talking about Homer and stuff like that. So I think he's part of the ancient Greek myths. He's tying in with the history to some extent, and just the way the book begins, I like that. It's Thucydides, an Athenian, wrote of the history of the war between the Peloponnesians and the Athenians, beginning at the moment that it broke out, and believing that it would be a great war and more worthy of relation than any that had preceded it. This belief was not without its grounds. So I love the way he starts by referring to himself in the third person and just kind of knowing that this was going to be around a long time. And then some other possibilities for the first quarter. I just wanted to mention them. I'm pretty sure I won't get to them. There's another book I acquired, but this is David K. Watt, I think. I'm not sure how his name's pronounced. A Short History of Thailand, second edition. This was, I think it was originally Yale Press, but this edition came out on Silkworm Books, which is a Thai publisher out of Chiang Mai. They do really great books, and this looks really good for a short history. It has a lot of information. The text's really small, so there's actually a lot kind of packed in to this book. And it goes from like the earliest ancient history that they know about Thailand until about 2002. So I do really want to read this book, but it might have to come next year. I'm not sure. And then another one that kind of fits in this longer time period, at least starts in the first period, would be this book on the history of Kauai. I picked this up in 2017 when I was on a family vacation in Kauai. And I was actually hiking at a state park, and in the state park kind of gift shop area, I picked up this book. And this is out of University of Hawaii Press. I think it was written in the 1980s, I believe. Maybe, yeah. Let me see if I can find that. I'm pretty sure it was like 1984 or something like that. I was just looking, but... Yeah, 1984. I guess this paperback edition came out in 1987. And yeah, it's just tracing from what they know of the ancient history of Kauai up to the kind of present, or up to the 80s, I assume. It looks like a lot of it took place in the 1800s. I'd like to get to this book as well, too. I've just had it sitting on my shelf for a long time, but I probably won't get to it. I don't know. And then the last one I was just going to mention in the possibilities was... Thomas F. Waters, The Superior North Shore. And this is a natural history of Lake Superior's northern lands and waters. I did read this book, but I think it's been over 10 years. I just remember it being really good. And it's a husband and wife. Like Thomas F. Waters was a professor at the U of M. This came out on the University of Minnesota, whatever their press is called, University of Minnesota Press. It's just a really beautiful book as well. But it goes back to the ancient geology of the North Shore, and it's just an area that I've done a lot of hiking and camping around there. And his wife did all the illustrations, and yeah, they're just really, really beautiful. I think this also came out in the 80s. Here's like one example of her illustrations. She does maps as well throughout the book. They're really good though. I love these old these nature drawings, and just a lot of cool stuff like that. So yeah, I'd like to reread this book at some time. There's the lovely husband and wife combo. Very cool. All right, and then to get into the next period, so the next period would be from AD 500 to 1500. So again, I've kind of already been in this period a lot with Byzantium, and we're kind of continuing along that path somewhat. Let me grab the books from this one. And for this one, I have to give credit to Angelina from Books Do Things to Me, because I saw this on her channel. I think she was like the first one I've seen to put out a Historathon 2026 video. She covered the whole year as well. And one of the things she was focusing on was the Crusades. And she had a set of books that kind of checked all the boxes for me, because one, it's written in 1952, I think, and it's a multi-volume set. And I did want to read about the Crusades as well. I'm still waiting for volume 1 to get here from England, but these are Penguin Modern Classics put these out, and they got the cool covers and the historian on the back. It did get a little dinked up in the shipping, which always annoys me. I was interested to see how this UK company would do compared to Amazon, and it was actually boxed up a bit, but the box was like a real thin box that fit the books horizontally, like next to each other, and so I guess the corners of the books were somewhat vulnerable in that position. So I would say it was better than when Amazon sends books in just a plastic bag, but not as good as when Amazon actually boxes up the books. Theirs are a bit better. So little damage, but not too bad. And so that's the first one. This is by Steve Runciman. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. And I don't know too much about these. I was happy to see they're not super long, because in the second half of the year, I got a lot of stuff I got to get to. So here's book 2 and book 3. So yeah, the covers are real cool. And waiting on book 1. But like I said, these take you through the entirety of the Crusades. And so I'm looking forward to those as well. I'm going to have another video coming out soon with kind of like fiction that's related to the different time periods of Historathon. So I'm trying to tie in a lot of the fiction that I read to it as well. So I'll have some more stuff in definitely in this time period. Yep. And then the only other book that would, like a possibility, so that one was a promise. This is a possibility, and this barely fits into the time period, but it's Descriptions of Old Siam. And this one was actually by, it's compiled and introduced by Michael Smithies, but this was put out by Oxford University Press. And it's just primary accounts written about Siam. So it's mostly, it'll be like Frenchmen who were here, doing trade and whatnot in Bangkok, pretty much. But the first account, you can get to it. Okay, so it starts out, and this talks about someone who was returned in 1444. So it goes back pretty far, and then it just keeps moving forward until probably like the 19th century, maybe, would be the most modern writing. I've kind of thumbed through this before and read a bit of it, and it's really cool to see like the firsthand accounts of what Thailand was like back then, and a lot of them had interactions with some of the kings and whatnot. So it's really cool. It's another book that I acquired, so it's not in like great shape. It's spent a lot of years in a hot shed, but it's still perfectly readable. All right. I'm going to straighten up my bookshelf for a second because I'm getting way too many books on the table, so I'll probably edit this. And then for the second half of the year, I'm pretty much just focusing only on American history. When I was watching Saracen Salute's video on this, he had mentioned that it was the 250th anniversary of America. And I hadn't even thought about that or realized it because I don't really pay attention to the news or not. But it worked out well anyway. I was planning to read on George Washington anyway. And so I picked up a 4-volume set by James Thomas Flexner. And so this one also, I think, was written in the 1960s, this series. It's, like I said, 4 books. So the first one is The Forge of Experience. It just covers the early years of George Washington's life from 1732 to 1775. Normally, I don't like that. Like, that's my least favorite part of a biography is someone's early life. But Washington's was like really interesting before he became a general. His life was like, it's amazing that he lived through that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into this. And the books are really nice. I got, they're older, but this one's in real good shape. And this one, I was just opening it, and it's got this really creepy, kind of uncanny bust of George Washington's head, which is very, very strangely lifelike. It's creepy, but anyway, it's got some illustrations throughout and whatnot. And so yeah, this is the first one, and then this one I think I actually ended up with a first edition. This is the only one. It's the writing of the name is like in a different direction and whatnot. There's another picture of our author, and this one covers the American Revolution, so from 1775 to 1783, and that's it. I think with this one. So there's one that had a receipt in it that was quite interesting. I don't think it was this one though. Excuse me. And then after that, this is it. We have George Washington and the New Nation. And sometimes when you buy like an old secondhand book, you get a cool little artifact inside it. And this isn't that cool, but I found it a little interesting. It came with a receipt, and the first thing that I was kind of impressed me was how well this receipt has held up, because nowadays when I get books, it comes with a printed receipt, and like less than a year later, sometimes I'll use it as a bookmark or whatever. I'll see, and there's like nothing left on the receipt. It's completely blank. So I don't know if that's a conspiracy by businesses to keep you from being able to return items. But this one, this receipt, I should say, unfortunately, it's not dated, but someone paid $12.50 for that book, and that one doesn't have a price. It's the only one, I think, that doesn't have a price on the dust jacket, so I can't actually see I don't know if that was the original price of the book or if someone bought this secondhand, but I had to look up the bookstore. It's, I think, Croces and Brentanos. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but it's out of Chicago. So I looked it up just to see, like, is this actually still a bookstore or anything? And quite an interesting history, actually. One of the guys, I think Croce, I don't know his name, Croce, maybe it sounds better. He came from Michigan, and then as he was building up his business, he had moved to Chicago and ended up combining his bookstore. He bought out or something, or combined with Brentanos. And it created, at the time, what they claimed was the largest bookstore in the world, apparently. And so it was a huge bookstore in Chicago, and they kind of specialized in art books. That was their big specialty, what they were known for. But they're also known for just having like incredibly adroit staff members. So everyone was just super intelligent, super well informed, and they were depending on that to kind of keep their bookstore going because as in the maybe 80s and 90s, more kind of bargain bookstores were coming into existence. And they weren't worried about that because they thought their staff was so good that they would be able to continue. But alas, it didn't. In 1995, it went out of business. And so, I'm from the Midwest, but I've only been to Chicago maybe 3 or 4 times in my life, and only once before 1995. And I was definitely too young. Not in 1995, but I think I was there in the mid 80s, and so I was too young at that point to have possibly gone to this bookstore. But if anyone knows anything about it, I'd be interested to hear that. I don't know. I kind of love finding these little things sometimes when you get a book. And then the last of that series is Anguish and Farewell from 1793 to 1799. And like I said, these were written, I think, mostly in the mid to late 1960s. I've heard good things about Flexner on Steve Donahue was talking about him. I guess he did Flexner has a abridged version of this where it's in one volume, and I guess it's supposed to be pretty good as well. But I wanted to go for the full set if I could, and I did, and I was able to find these for fairly cheap as well. I think all of them were around $10, some of them less. And then again, that's going to be pretty heavy for the third period, but I don't have as much fiction holding me down in the second half of the year. So the first half of the year, I've got a lot of fiction that I'm committed to. The second half is more open. I'm going to be reading a lot more American authors as well in the second half. But I can kind of work around the history more, so I'm not as worried about that. And then I only have a couple possibilities in this one. I'd really like to get to the David McCullough, 1776, another book that I acquired. This one's in really good shape though. And I don't know, I've always heard good things about David McCullough. I know he also wrote what's supposed to be a good biography of John Adams that I would like to read someday. I've heard good things about this. I know I've heard a lot of people are doing this for Historathon as well. So if I can, this is another very strong of the possibilities. This would be at the top of my list along with Thucydides. And the only other one I have, I can't remember exactly how I got this, but I have A People's History of the American Revolution. And so, these are the Howard Zinn or whatever. This one's not Howard Zinn. This is Ray Raphael. I guess these kind of give a more common person on the ground viewpoint of history. And so this one would obviously be also about the American Revolution. So it would fit in very nice. I don't think I'll probably get to it, but there's a small chance. And I believe I forgot to mention that last time period was from 1500 to 1820. So that's why I was focusing on the American Revolution. And then the last time period is obviously 1820 until the present day for quarter 4. And so for that, I'm focusing in on the Civil War. Again, I'm not like a big Civil War guy. I haven't read a ton about it. And so it's another thing that I'm very interested in digging deeper into, kind of similar to the Crusades. For that, this one, it wasn't really recommended to me in any way. It's just someone who's been on my radar for a long time, and that is Shelby Foote. So he wrote a 3-volume Civil War, and it says a narrative. So I guess it's written in a very, supposedly in a very engaging, almost novelistic way. And he was a novelist as well. He wasn't trained as a historian, but apparently he went into really, really deep research to write this 3-volume history. I'm not sure, really how highly regarded he is these days, but he's been on my radar for a long time because I remember hearing about him. He was like a childhood friend of the novelist Walker Piercy, who I'll probably go into when I talk about some of the books I'll read along with Historathon. But Walker Piercy was a little bit more successful at the time that Foote started writing these. I think this was started in maybe 52 or something like that, 1952. And so Walker Piercy ended up giving him a personal loan to help Foote start writing this 3-volume series. And I've always just heard really good things about Shelby Foote's writing style. And yes, let's see. I keep seeing it compared to the Iliad for some reason in the in some of the blurbs. Maybe it wasn't on this one. The first volume is shorter actually, because the second and third volume came to me first, and they're huge. They're each 1,000 pages, and I was like, oh, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get through this. But I think I might. The first volume actually is a little bit shorter. Yeah, it's like, well, it's still 800 pages, but yeah, saves me 200 pages or something. So I do this at the end of the year. I'm gonna have to push really hard probably to get through this. So this is book one, and then yeah, like book two is huge. I love the spines, and yeah, I had to go with the paperbacks because the hardcovers were like super expensive for this, but they came without getting too beat up. Yeah, I don't know where I saw that blurb by. I think it was actually by Walker Piercy too. And then the last one. So he basically wrote like one of these a decade. Like the first one came out in the 50s, the second one in the 60s, and then the third volume is probably the biggest. I think this one is very, very highly regarded. And so, yeah, the end of the Civil War. Oh, there's our quote from Walker Piercy. It says, "An unparalleled achievement, an American Iliad, a unique work uniting the scholarship of the historian and the high readability of the first-class novelist." So, yeah, it combines history with good novelistic style writing. That's a huge book, though. How many pages? I guess it's 1,065 pages, but quite a chunker. But again, the fact that it's written in a novelistic style, I think, will help quite a bit. And then just kind of the supplementary, the possibilities readings that I'm pretty positive I won't get to. I have another people's history, a lot of people's history. I did read part of this one. I can't remember how far I got, but I do remember having read some of this before, many, many years ago. And so kind of the same thing. And the last, just to get it, I have another people's history. This is just the 20th century, so I really haven't covered the 20th century in any of my reading. And I know this is kind of one of the classic Howard Zinn ones, which I've never read, but just to kind of get a different angle at it, because I know the Shelby Foote's going to be looking a lot at the battles and whatnot, and all the other books too are kind of looking at the perspective from the great leaders, which is great. But then with the people's history, I guess you can get the people's view of it to get kind of both sides of history if possible. But again, I probably won't get to a lot of the possibilities that I showed. That's it. And I will be making another video soon, just going through the kind of fiction that I plan to read along with Historathon. And there's one other thing I think I'm gonna join in on. There's a Poland project that I learned about through Mike at Bibliophile Bookscape, but he's not the one who thought of it. It's actually from another booktuber named Felix. And I can't think of the name of his channel right now. But anyway, I'm going to talk about that in the next video. So I'll link to that when I get to the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and hope to see you again soon.